You have 30 days left to change your life drafting fantasy football teams. Let's try and change my life today.
It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King Summer.
All right, GM, everyone, welcome in. If you just came over from Peter's channel, maybe it's a first time, long time situation. How are we all doing? Beautiful day to draft a fantasy football team. We are in Best Ball Mania. We are drafting out of the 11 in Best Ball Mania. Brock Bowers, potential option here. How are we all doing? How are we enjoying it? Are you guys getting ready? Are you ready for the National Football League season? GM. How are we all doing, boys? How are we all doing today? It's true. Yes, new MMG contest. I believe MMG is like literally one of the biggest fantasy football YouTubers in the world. Not fantasy football. He is a big Madden YouTuber, and there is a new contest out for him. GM. Hey, everyone, remember to give Mr. Demo Zone his props for the Mac Miller bobblehead. FFPS promos. You mean FFPC promo? I do not know of any FFPC. Explain the Tesla bet. Seems like a bad bet for a guy that can only be a wide receiver 3 that has to fight with Laporta, Gibbs, Montgomery. Really, it is as simple as he was a 3rd round pick. They traded a bunch up to get Mr. Isaac Tesla, and he also is like a 10 RAS guy. But really, that's all I got for you, man. That's really all I got. The MMG contest is filling up fast. I only have 40 done, and it's like, wow, okay. I have not even looked at this contest yet. How did the home league turn out? Home league team turned out well. Let me see if I can pull up a screenshot. The thing is I am not signed into Sleeper on Firefox. Oh, weekly winners. Cool. For redraft, I would not take Bowers and Genty on the same team, I don't think. Bang. Amon-Ra St. Brown for the first pick of the stream. Let me get the sidekick pulled up to the right part of the screen. Ooh. I know that's just like their ADPs now, but man, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Devin A-Chain feels good. I did get my solo shot team through. All right, I want to go look at this new MMG contest. What is our structure here? By the way, public service announcement. If you are entering into National Football League slow drafts, I would basically consider this the last day to do it, where you think you're going to be able to get done without hitting the 4-hour clocks. We are very close to the end of that. Flock contest still open. MMG, 50 entry max, 30K to first. 2 out of 12, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 5. I like that for a semifinal. Okay, there we go. Cool little contest there. Peppertoni doesn't like the structure. Every combo in the back 4, Genty, BTJ, St. Brown, A-Chain, Puka, London, Neighbors, Henry, they all feel quite good. 4-hour clocks are not great. 4-hour clocks are not great. MMG price is better, but the flock contest is like my favorite contest on Underdog right now. I'm gonna max every single one of those flock community contests for sure. I thought rookies and sophomore. No, Mac Nova. I believe this is true. I believe I have never drafted I believe I have never drafted a rookies and sophomore. Yeah, 3 max time box is just a very sick contest. They still do the overnight pause on the 4-hour clocks. MMG's contest had my best team last year, but that may be results bias. It might be. How many best ball teams have you guys drafted? As of right now, I have 638 in the drafts on Underdog right now. 638. Any of you guys gotten over? Any of you guys over 500 yet? I assume most of you are not on my level of pure degeneracy. Yeah, all post draft, and then I have like 256 pre-draft. Yeah, not including pre-draft. That's its own thing. Only at 480. Goal is 600. Far cry from 1100 last year. 768 for Stefan. Damn, shout out to you guys, brother. All right. At pick 35 here, could do Breeze, could do Daniels, could do Jackson Smith and Jigbuck, early Kittle, early Allen, and early Mar. T got down to 29 on this team. My boy Al Smizzle is drafting to my right. Actually, you know what? I don't care about any of these guys, so I'm going to take Worthy because the difference between those guys don't matter to me at all. 639. Wow, we're right about the same. That's crazy. And now I'm going to take Kyron Williams again because I just did not care about the difference there between JSN, Brees, whatever. I think there's a tier break there. So St. Brown, A-Chain, Xavier Worthy, and Kyron Williams through 4 picks. Having a kid killed the time. Matt, that's not my life yet, but it's going to be my life very soon. I guess I'm going to be a slow draft king, or maybe I will just stream. Maybe next year I will just stream every draft I do, period. 477, shout out to you. I won't be back in the States until late August. Oh, yeah, you're going to have to slam. Can I sell you on Kyron? I mean, frankly, I just think that Kyron Williams is probably a good 4th round pick. At the end of the day, Kyron Williams is probably just like a good bet to get about 1,200 yards and between 8 to 12 touchdowns. And if he gets on the higher end of that range, then he's going to be a really good pick. If he gets on the lower end of that range, he is not going to be a particularly good pick. Just put the baby bouncer in the baby thing. 744 all his fast drafts is crazy work, brother. Fast drafts, I would be completely lost without my slows. By the way, I think there is a chance that Shaidy from Legendary Upside is going to be joining the program today. He told me he was interested in it, but then did not respond. Yes, the Kyron contract extension is very imminent. I've been hearing that. Well, I don't know. I've been hearing. Oh, Shaidy, I never saw your DM back. Wow, look at me. Shaidy messaged me back at 5:26 a.m. and I never saw it. There you go. That's on me. There you go. Okay, there we go. We're all good. Last year I did 1,102 with one single slow, a slow puppy. My daughter drafted a few of my picks while trying to change diapers. There you go. All right, this is nice. Small little dip here on Flowers, or is Kanab's going to take him? Wow, small little dipperino there. Nice. Best Ball Week starts on August 18th. Now, do we do Rome? Yeah, let's do Rome. Because then at 83 and 86, one of those I can take Mahomes, maybe Mahomes Hawkinson at that turn. Fun game. If your girlfriend can't pronounce the player's name, he's a smash. I feel like my wife could get all of these. This is actually a good point. Preferring fast drafts because the rooms are just kind of fluky. People genuinely make a lot of panic picks. They do. FFPC, I don't think allows you to upload ranks, to my knowledge. She probably would not get that. But my wife is a speech language pathologist, so she knows the phonetic alphabet very well. Yeah, it is such a boomer site, you literally can't upload ranks. Man, how gross has this part of the board gotten? Like between pick 80 and pick 90, there is like no guy you actually want. Oh, this is funny. Why is Burrow going so low? In my mind, Burrow goes very high. But that's funny. You know, that's just a funny little difference of perspective. But the reason why Burrow would go lower compared to average draft position would be that most users don't like to take Joe Burrow without one of Jamar Chase or T. Higgins on their team. And so if T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are always over on that left side of the board, then he's not going to go. Judy goes, the new price on Igbuka sucks. It just leaves you in a spot where you what's funny is him and Godwin are now kind of paired over there on that right side of the board, or have swapped. If people want to see okay, let me see if I can get it pulled up. Okay, let's see if I link it, will it let me do it? Will it let me display my league? Oh, here we go. All right, here's my let me make these picks, then we'll do it. Yeah, Burrow pretty much has to lead the league in passing to pay off ADP. Yeah, I like Igbuka there. I think it's awesome. Would you consider pulling T up for the Burrow stack? How far up do you pull him, I guess? Man, brutal spot here. Well, first we'll take Mahomes and then think. God, Godwin and Aaron Jones went this. You know what? I'm just taking Jaden Higgins. It's pretty close by my rankings anyways. So through 8 picks, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devin Achane, Xavier Worthy, Kyron Williams, Zay Flowers, Roma Dunze, Pat Mahomes, and Jaden Higgins. This is my team in my home league. Bucky is a keeper in the 14th round. Drake May is my quarterback. Devin Achane, who is my first round pick. Bucky Irving, Drake London, Travis Hunter Henry, Ted Arroyo McMillan, James Conner, Keenan Allen. I don't know why Keenan Allen's in the flex. I took Butker. I didn't take a defense. Eli Mitchell, Jerome Ford, Jalen Warren, Tank Bigsby, Pat Bryant, Jacoby Myers, and Josh Downs. That is my home league team with all my boys from high school and college. Felt pretty good about it. And it was a true pleasure to draft. I felt pretty good about Aronde Gadsden in the Hall of Fame game. I thought that he had the role I basically expected him to have, which is he is a pure receiving tight end who is not going to be asked to block. I'm struggling to decide between keeping Jefferson in round 1 or Neighbors in round 3 to pair with round 3 Chase. Well, how does your keeper tag work? Can you keep Neighbors in round? Can you keep 2 round 3s? I don't know how that works. I have Mixon ranked 111 overall. Yeah, he didn't play very much. He left the game kind of when the other starting players or surrounding starting players left. Yeah, honestly, nothing better. There really is not anything better than your home draft with your boys. Yeah, I would not imagine that we are going to see Aronde Gadsden block very often. Dude, can you rate my team? I have Chase, Lamb, CMC, Henry, Bowers, Lamar, Nico, and Achane. Is the James Cook hold-in scaring you off? I am holding off on James Cook because I think he's a smidgen overpriced. The hold-in doesn't do much for me. Are you guys concerned about this hold-in at all? Because I am not. I don't feel as if it's a big deal. Feels like probably he's just going to play. All right, we are up in 1 pick. Scadaboo is hurt right now. I need to move him down my rankings a smidge. I'm gonna take Tajay Spears. By the way, I did have something to show you guys, but do I take? Oh, I take Goff here. Goff every time. Bang. Maybe could have taken a tight end, but we'll see at the next turn. Every year I do the same thing. I do this cheat sheet. And the cheat sheet is up and live now. So basically it's for your home league draft. So we have the 2025 fantasy football cheat sheet. It's exactly what it sounds like. It is just literally a color-coded sheet in which it descends in terms of combinatorial ADP. So it's ESPN, Sleeper, RT Sports, and NFL.com. And it's the ADPs combined in all together. And then color-coded by green. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what green is. Orange, which is like whatever, they're fine. And then red for clear fades. I think it's no, it does not look as good as the late round quarterback guide. I can tell you that much. It does not look that good. But it's up on patreon.com/DavisMattic. And I think it's also listed in my store, but I think maybe they don't display on lives. But yeah, so it's there. McLaurin might be a super value. I don't know. I've realized in home leagues, you can't look at the round pick you're taking someone, particularly running back. You have to look at what number running back off the board is where you're taking them. Yes, Brady, this is true, which is why I organized the cheat sheet that way. So instead of like rankings, like 1 through 15 or 1 through 200 or whatever, I just have them sorted by ADP. I honestly think that is more helpful. Yes, I am in the Scott Fishbowl. I already did my draft though. The Pantones are worth the late round quarterback premium. They are. They do good work. Okay. Maybe I should have just taken a tight end there because now Warren and Loveland go. Kind of a squirrely draft. Isn't there a Superflex tournament open right now? Or is the German Shepherd but I guess it's closed already. God, all the tight ends are going. Brutal stuff. Would have loved to have eaten that Evan Ingram Dipperino. Ah, yeah. Yeah, they do have a Superflex only on drafters. I am not taking round 18 Alexander Madison. No. I like to be able to look at myself in the mirror. All right. A little bit of David Njoku, never hurt nobody. I'm going to be updating my Hollywood Brown ranking. I do not have Hollywood Brown ranked here anymore. Do we take Tootin? Yeah, let's take Tootin. So now we have I got to make the sidekick smaller here. Now we have a 2-4-5-1 with Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff, Devon Achane, Kyron Williams, Tajay Spears, Byshell Tootin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Rome Odunze, Jaden Higgins, and David Njoku. This team is cooking. Mason Taylor is up to tight end 23, right around a 16th round pick. Hollywood has a pretty gnarly ankle injury. Sounds like the way Andy Reid described it is that Andy Reid described it as he avoided ankle surgery, which does not sound that good to me. I don't think I ever order a sub sandwich. Do you guys order sub sandwiches? What platform do you recommend for experienced redrafters but new to best ball? I would tell you to sign up on Underdog Fantasy and use code Davis, which helps me out, allows me to stay in business around here. Saw you compare Sean Siegel to James Joyce on another pod. Don't remember saying that, but I do believe it. Yes, avoided ankle surgery is better than having ankle surgery, but both are still bad. Very bad to have an ankle injury. Yeah. This was the exact quote. Doesn't look like he's going to have surgery. We have to let it heal up. I mean, that does not sound that good to me. Okay. Mac Nova said I did say it. I assume all my home league boys are big on fantasy football. They all play best ball. My thoughts on Kareem Hunt are he probably is the number 2 running back on the Chiefs, but unclear if that is worth anything because he's not very good. Happy Dinger Advancement Day. Yes. If you played fantasy baseball on Underdog this year, your teams are now advancing to the playoff pods. I had one very good team in the solo shot, but it had Aaron Judge and Ronald Acuna Jr. on it, and they are both injured. So we're not loving that. All right. We are kind of in a tricky spot here. Let's take Jalen McMillan first. Give us another little bit of wide receiver breathing room. And I guess we'll do Brenton Strange. Again, not loving that, but it's fine. This is going to be a three tight end team. What software do I use? I use a program called StreamYard, which is free to use, I believe. I pay for it, but I believe it is free to use. Can we support a creator when we deposit and send a third time? I don't believe that's how that works. Maybe someday. I have not ever played NBA best ball before. I've played season-long fantasy hoops, and I play NBA battle royales. Six and 9 bunt teams, two or three dingers. All right. Shout out to the dinger boys. I had a lot of fun drafting dingers. My teams are not good. I got smoked. And I don't even really, looking at my exposures, know how I got smoked. I know that one of my top exposed pitchers never got called up from the minor leagues, and another one of my starting pitchers tore his UCL. So that was probably not great. Yeah, the Bubba Chandler stuff was not great. This team is going to be thin at running back. A-Chain, Kyron, Tajay, and Tootin. Gonna need a Justice Hill type on here. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devin A-Chain, Xavier Worthy, Kyron Williams, Zay Flowers, Roma Dunze, Patrick Mahomes, Jaden Higgins, Tajay Spears, Jared Goff, David Njoku, Byshell Tootin, Jalen McMillan, and Brenton Strange is the team. A lot of different ways I could end this one, honestly. With the 2-4-6-2. Definitely one. I was going to say I might take Mason Taylor, but maybe not. All the good 18th round running backs are getting pushed up to a serious degree. Like this range of guys, like after this Mostert, Miller, that range is not feeling very good to me. I definitely need one more running back. Maybe this is a team that could actually use Isaiah Likely. Like maybe Likely with a broken foot is fine on this team. Oh, he is gone anyway. All right, let's do we need a Miles Sanders on this team? Do we need a chaperone? I guess we do. We need a little bit of a chaperone. We'll take Miles Sanders. Sounds like Miles Sanders having a very good training camp. Not a very good, a fine training camp. You know what? Let's take Elijah Arroyo. My boy. My big board boy. Thoughts on Keaton Mitchell? Feels like he has 2 outs to having a good role with the team, with Hill and Henry being older. He is hurt. He does have a knee injury. My thoughts on Keaton Mitchell are, I don't think that I feel very confident that he and Justice Hill basically play different positions. If anything, he is Derrick Henry's handcuff. And Todd Monken was pretty clear about Keaton Mitchell's role on the team, which is that he is the running back 3. I think he's really unlikely to get any touches. He might get, he might end up averaging 2 carries per game or something. But he is the top handcuff because there's not going to be any more work on the bone for Justice Hill if Derrick Henry is out, in my opinion. Thoughts on Jawar Jordan? Jawar Jordan is just the most replacement level player of all time, who was not really a good college player, They redshirted him last year by sticking him on IR. I mean, what is that even? You know, I think I'd be surprised if Jawar Jordan makes the 53 for the Houston Texans. Keaton Mitchell, though. Keaton Mitchell, now that guys like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Brashard Smith are getting a little bit more expensive, I would say he is certainly draftable. All right, 2 more picks here. Damn, JCM just went. And Jalen Royals went. All right, so we're going to do Isaac Tesla for our first pick here. And then probably a running back. We could do Brashard here. Jarquez Hunter. Yeah, sure. We'll do Brashard. All right, final team. Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff. Running back room of Devin Achane, Kyron Williams, Tajay Spears, Byshell Tootin, Miles Sanders, and Brashard Smith. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Rome Odunze, Jaden Higgins, Jalen McMillan, Isaac Tesla with Jared Goff and JSN, David Njoku, Brenton Strange, and Elijah Arroyo. Perfect. We have, how many more do we have to do? We have 68 more Best Ball Mania drafts left to do on the stream. There we go. Little influencer 102 action. Starting to see a lot of no badges in the room. Retail is coming. Dude, Jack Bash had a sick one-handed catch today. How far are you willing to pull up guys past pick 130? A lot. Ryan, the thing with Liam is he's teaching again. So Liam is literally at chess school. So I don't know if he has the ability to make it. But I'm waiting to hear back from a couple other people. Bajan Robinson at pick 2, because that is the new reality that we live in. Yes, DraftKings Best Ball Week starts August 18th. What is a P2? Oh, I'm fine to give away 50% of equity on all my teams, brother. Who would be a better rapper, me or Chess Liam? I don't know, Liam's a pretty clever guy. I do. Yeah, I do live in my mother's basement. Dude, I've been drafting the shit out of Bill Merritt. Yeah, it is August 18th now. If you heard any news about the backup running back in Philly, yeah, it's Will Shipley. I don't believe absolutely anything I've read about A.J. Dillon. I think that is a thing that is going to feel very different when the games start. There you go, Christian McCaffrey at 7. It's the reality that we live in. Wow. The amount of YouTube members just got to 300 for the first time. Your member community is at 300. Shout out to the Membies. Oh wait, I'm on my home league screen. Yeah, time to enter some slows, bro. What do we think? Do we think that DraftKings works on the open sea? I'm gonna guess it does not. I don't actually live in my mother's basement. I live in my own basement. Well, I don't live down here, but I have a basement. It's more like slapping JCM up under the presence that he has like multiple outs. Like for best ball, he can have some good point contributing performances in the same way that Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McWeapon did last year. But he also has double outs, right? Injury to Eckler, injury to Brian Robinson. Easy peasy. Oh, I just realized I forgot to do the timestamp. We flew through that first draft. Love flying through these 20-second clock drafts. JCM over Woody is the ultimate slappy move. I can think of other more ultimate slappy moves, but that one is pretty slappy. You should come up with the new catchphrase, like, "What's up?" We'll do Trey McBride on this one. "What's going on? I'm Davis/Ron. Welcome to the basement." Oh, the Slappies are drafting the shit out of JCM now, brother. Let's do Amari and Hampton. Let's pull him up. How about that? How about that for a high T start? Bajan, Trey McBride, Amari and Hampton. McWeapon is one of the greatest nicknames of all time. I have a strong feeling that a lot of people watching this stream do not remember Jeremy McWeapon at Boise State. Where were you when Jeremy McWeapon went for 1,700 yards and 26 touchdowns, then followed it up with 2,100 yards and 27 touchdowns for pretty good Boise State teams? 9-4, 10-3. Brett Rippon as his quarterback. Were there any wide receivers on those teams that made the NFL? Cedric Wilson Jr. Thomas Spurbeck never made it. But shout out to the McWeapon, an all-time college football favorite. Any update on Keenan's meeting with the Chargers? I got nothing yet. There. Rotoviz does remember. Ron's chat for his FFPC team last night made me realize that fantasy football may still be beatable. End of the day, man. Shout out to those boys. Slim Reaper is really good. What do you think the optimal number of finished Best Ball Mania drafts is right now? That's a great question. I would probably err on wanting to be more done than less. So like if the contest is 60% full or whatever, how full is the contest? As of right now, Best Ball Mania is 55% full. So I'd probably like to have about 65% of my drafts done. Yeah, I think doing like one a day from this point might even be nice. Let me tell you, man, if you guys are mad about Ron and Flock's chat, someday I would love for my chat to be as normie as Ron and Flock. That oh my god, Xavier Worthy at pick freaking 45. Crazy. Oh, George Pickens. Slap the button on George Pickens. The wide receiver video I did this weekend did not do well. It did brutal. It was like the worst performing video of the year. One of them. Wow, Burrow. There you go. Burrow goes at 48. Brand new world. Would Keenan signing with the Chargers temper your excitement for KLS? I'm going to select Rushy Race here. It would a little bit, but I really mean that right now, which is that I don't really think Keenan does much to KLS because the border for KLS is he's got to play better than Quentin Johnston, and he's got to play better than Trey Harris. And if he doesn't do that, he's not going to play. And I think that's regardless of Keenan Allen. What months have previous BBM winners won? I know the BBM 3 winner, Patrick Corain, drafted in July. I don't know about the winner from last year. I think generally speaking, the earlier drafts have done better. That is my memory. Rate my home league that has 7 top 3 round picks, please. I would love to, Dylan. Last year was June. Crazy. All right, so through 5 rounds were Bijan Robinson, Trey McBride, Amarian Hampton, George Pickens, and Rashee Rice. So we are definitely behind at wide receiver. So I wanted to make sure to embrace variance by taking a guy like Rashee. Minimal big closing line value risers makes me think later is better this year. There are a good bit of CLV guys though, like your Dobbinses and whatnot. They've all been June or July. Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? That is when you're starting to get more information, but it's also like something I would obviously suggest would be most of the people drafting in June or July are going to be people who are really serious about best ball and fantasy football. There's a lot of dead money coming in August. Yes. Yeah, definitely there will be more Corain. Actually, Corain is going to be on the stream this Wednesday. Mr. Patrick Corain will be on the show in about 48 hours. Gonna be a big stream on Wednesday. Yeah, by serious I mean an absolute sick degenerate. That is true. Okay. Oh, this is actually going to work out great here to double tap 2 wide receivers. Bang, we'll go Diggs, and then I'll get one of these wide receivers that I like coming around here. This is actually going to work out. As a guy who's finished 85%, there's tons of CLV, Tank, Dobbins, Hampton, Swift. I am not committing to the 24-hour bit, which is probably about 8 hours. Let's go Golden. Thoughts on Cup this year? I'm out. I am not particularly in on Cooper Kupp. There's some builds where it makes sense. An oasis for us degens in a desert of stale fantasy football content. Thank you, sir. Is it crazy to take A-Chain over Nico at pick 9 of full PPR? No, I don't think so. I would struggle to do it, but I do not think it's crazy. I haven't drafted since the first week of July just because to me there hasn't been anything over actionable. That is crazy. I just love to draft. Even if there wasn't anything actionable. I think I recovered nicely from that boomer start. Peter's boomer start did not look this good. Bijan Robinson, Trey McBride, Amarian Hampton, George Pickens, Rashee Rice, Stephon Diggs, and Matthew Golden. So we can get... Well, Mahomes is not going to get to 95, and I probably have to take a wide receiver there anyways. So we have Love live, we have May live, Dak live. I love taking George Pickens at these prices. I think that the Kyle Pitts rise up draft boards was inevitable. It was absolutely always going to happen. And it doesn't feel good. It feels bad. Like Kyle Pitts as like going next to like Mike Gesicki was always going to be a good pick. But Kyle Pitts going as like your tight end 1 on some teams, I think is not great. Like Pitts is not going to, he's not going to be on the field for running plays. And if you're not on the field for running plays, that also means you're not going to be on the field for play action plays. Like Pitts played 17 games last year and had 90 targets. Now he did have 600 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is kind of fine. When are the Rice and Addison suspensions going to hit? I assume fairly soon, but hard to say. I mean, we know how long Addison is going to be suspended for 3 games. People still underrate the role that luck and variance plays in this game. You'd rather advance team to the playoffs with lower owned guys. Yes, all things being equal, that is true. But the thing is that I don't believe you have any ability to really influence that stuff. So I don't sweat on it, if that makes sense. Man, this is so true. I do expect further market correction. Yes, I do. This is very wise of you, CH, to expect further market correction. My favorite last 2-round tight end dart, Juwan Johnson, Theo Johnson, Harold Fannin Jr., Aronde Gadsden. Dang. All right. Mahomes goes, so we're not able to get him. We could do Kyler with McBride. I'm going to take Shaheed first because I have multiple quarterbacks alive, and I'm committing to the bit on Rashid Shaheed. Mike, this is the most degen chat you were ever going to find. Of course, we are betting on the preseason games this Thursday. You need to learn about where you are, brother. Hey man, there was redraft content. I'm going to take Kyler with McBride. There was redraft content on Sunday and no one watched it. Truly. Redraft video on Sunday got 1,100 views. How about the underdog pick'em slip, pick'em entry from last week? The Sunday video last week smashed. Don't be the idiot who fades these 3 running backs. 4,700 views. Yeah, preseason DFS is the best. All right, through 9 rounds, we have 2 running backs, which is Bijan Robinson and Amarian Hampton. We have Trey McBride. Our wide receivers are George Pickens, Rashee Rice, Stephon Diggs, Matthew Golden, and Rashid Shaheed. I took Kyler Murray at 98. Honestly, maybe an argument that I should have just pulled up some wide receiver here. Burden, could have just taken Trey Harris. Well, the video titles were the same. The video titles. I actually just changed the title of the other one because I thought maybe a title change would help. Rank these guys. I'm going to rookie draft on the clock. Hunter, DJ, Woody, JCM. I mean, Travis Hunter, obviously first. Who is DJ as a rookie?
100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100.
DJ Giddens. Oh, he's not saying Travis Hunter. He's saying Jarquez Hunter. Woody Marks first. DJ Giddens second. JCM third. Hunter fourth. Royals fifth. Yes. Sorry. That's on me, John. That's on me. I think you want Marks or Giddens there. In my opinion. I just think Marks you were going to be able to turn a profit on so quickly. By the way, my Trey McBride stat is going viral. Everyone is stealing my stats. Wide receiver is just freaking cooked here. So we're going to take... Oh, I can't even take Dak. Drake May. I panicked. That was panic. Yeah, the answer to your question, I think, is Woody Marks. All right. Why is it... Dobbins is not available, is he? Yeah, Dobbins is not available. We'll do Spears. I need to reset the old sidekicker Reno. It glitched out on me. Oh, yeah, everyone is now stealing the fact that McBride... Everyone went back and looked at his high school stats after I pulled him up. I'm just saying, bro. I put everybody on. What is the earliest you'll take Bowers in the second round? I'm sure I've taken Bowers as high as 15. I think I have him ranked 16th. I think Jonathan Brooks is pretty done. GM. Guys, GPNGC/Andrew won't draft Travis Hunter. He is the inventor of my 5th round wide receiver won't have to tackle Jonathan Taylor. Aren't you worried Travis Hunter's going to have to tackle Jonathan Taylor? Aren't you worried? I'm so worried. Camping this weekend, just watched the Hall of Fame game highlights. Any meaningful takeaways? I mean, I thought KLS looked really, really good. Looked a lot better than Trey Harris. I am not slurping the Dipperino on Joe Mixon. I've taken Joe Mixon here, like 106 to 111 in that range. You can't. I'm not allowing it. I'm not allowing it. Why would you take a defensive back in the mid-6th but not in the mid-5th? Jake Binniger, world's biggest Trey Harris fan, loves Trey Harris. Yeah, I was just on the Fantasy Pros podcast this weekend. Was glad for them to have me. More likely Hunter will have to tackle DJ Giddens or Khalil Herbert as Taylor will be out with an ankle. Jake, how do you respond to this, that Trey Harris is slow? Thoughts, comments, concerns? I wasn't really taking Shakir before, so I'm actually more likely to take him now that he gets cheaper. I think I had like 2% of Khalil Shakir before, so I actually probably can just take him now. Yeah, but he looks slow. Jake. All right. Tight end, maybe. All right, here we go, dudes. Buying the Toporino on Kyle Pitts. What do you guys know about buying the top on Kyle Pitts? We'll do league ed on this team. Maybe a little hyper fragile build here. Kyler Murray, Drake May, Bijan Robinson, Amarian Hampton, Tajay Spears, George Pickens, Rashee Rice, Stephon Diggs. Oh, I already had the stack. That was not a Drake May panic pick. That was correct because I had Stephon Diggs, Matthew Golden, Rashid Shaheed, Xavier Legette, Trey McBride, and Kyle Pitts. Beautiful, beautiful stuff from me there. I believe that was user error. Yeah, that was user error, not sidekick error. How early is too early to draft Renfrow? I mean, the 18th round. No one here is pro QJ. I might be a little pro QJ. Surely Trey Harris's yards per route run was not inflated by over 500 yards versus Furman, Georgia Southern, and Middle Tennessee State University. I don't really think Judkins is on pace to start very many games for the Browns. The season starts in 30 days, and he has not signed a contract yet with the team. I would be stunned if the Miami Dolphins trade their 30-year-old wide receiver for another 30-year-old wide receiver. Why would either team do that? The Commanders don't want to pay the 30-year-old wide receiver they have. The Dolphins don't want to pay the 30-year-old wide receiver they have. How does it make sense? And also, why the Tyreek is way better than McLaurin. So I do not really get it. Yeah, the Mike McD quotes are crazy. That's true. Are all these Buffalo wide receiver injuries making you a Kincaid slappy? I'll keep it absolutely real with you guys. 100% realer than real. I am drafting Josh Palmer some now. It pains me. It pains me to do it, but I am doing it. We'll do Miles Sanders. It's a good fourth running back for this team. Palmer is hurt too. Curtis Samuel's isn't. I don't even know if how much is playing with Jaden Daniels even better than playing with Tua? Tua, your pass attempts are going to be so much lower. I don't know, man. Let's do. You know what? Let's take Cedric Tillman. Most recent report is that Joe Flacco is going to be starting for the Cleveland Browns. So that is quite good. So we've got, wow, how about this? This is a crazy pull from Mary Kay Cabot. Browns Kenny Pickett will still sit out team drills today. So the old guy, Joe Flacco 40, is the only one of the quarterbacks not to miss a rep due to soreness or injury. So probably a slight bit of upgrade for the Browns pass catcher guys. I could see Flacco being an eliminator pick. Palmer sucks, but I don't know how the market is so confident that he's not just better than Keon. As always, Glue Eater knows ball. This This younger generation is soft. Flacco to Fannin. Book it. The Browns quarterback I think that is most likely to be starting in weeks 15, 16, or 17 is Shedeur Sanders. I think the Flacco games line should be 7.5. I think. Yeah, good for Deontay Johnson, good for Fannin, good for Njoku. I take a little bit of Deontay. I'm not like making Deontay Johnson like a core tenet of my strategy. But he's okay. Dude, Flacco to lead the league in passing yards. Who says no? What would be the true odds for Flacco to lead the National Football League in passing yards? 1,000-1, 2,000-1. Good for the Fannin bet. Man, I really hope that Xavier Hutchinson does not play more than 35% of the Texans' offensive snaps. I would take JCM in the 15th round. I would take JCM at pick 180. I gotta pick. Dude, Jack Bash. Awoo! Look at that CLV. Here you go. I'm about to take JCM right now. Here you go. A little bit of Ja'Cory Krosky merit. All right, there you go. Round 17, Ja'Cory Krosky merit. So I have one more pick. Probably just like a pure luxury pick. Kyler Murray, Drake May, Bijan Robinson, Amarian Hampton, Tajay Spears, Miles Sanders, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, George Pickens, Rashee Rice, Stephon Diggs with Drake May, Matthew Golden, Rashid Shaheed, Xavier Leggett, Cedric Tillman, Jack Best, Trey McBride, and Kyle Pitts. All right, I'm going to make one more pick. And Mr. Advice himself, Mr. Shaidy, is going to join the stream, the inventor, the originator of the sidekick. And we're gonna draft some teams. Beautiful stuff. I've clicked on Eckler. Eckler's still a pretty eliminator level of pick for me. I still click him a little bit, but let's talk about Luke McCaffrey for the next 10 minutes. KLS went round 14 in this one. Did he? No, he didn't. I have KLS ranked at I think 208 or something. Can't wait to have another Sims inventor on for you to totally ignore their Sims suggestions. I would never do that. No chance, right? Doesn't seem like me. Mr. Shaidy Advice.
I gotta mute your stream. Give me a second.
I need to turn the music off. There we go. People are very excited to do this draft and to see me just immediately ignore
everything. Yeah.
The beautiful computer that you built. Let's see. Maybe I do agree with what it's telling me to do right now. So I love when I agree with the computer. There's nothing better than that. How many teams deep are you in best ball season?
A lot. I don't know. I don't know, 500,000, something like that, I would guess.
Oh, that's beautiful. See, people should be They should be very cognizant of that, because I've always wondered when the high level DFS players were going to realize how much money was at stake and how suboptimally people were drafting. But it's sort of been an unexploited space up to this point. So that is very interesting. But because like Utica and Dan and these guys, they have no interest. They are they're leaving that to other people.
More than you would expect, have sidekick subs and are like trying to get some 5.55s and other things down.
Yes,
they sort of keep to themselves about what they're doing with their money. We just happen to know because we get to see the sub details.
Because you get to see the sub details.
Yeah.
All right.
I did mention our DMs. I'm waiting for contractors to show up. So at some point, I will randomly disappear to go get the door. One hopes to show them the problem with our bathroom fan. Let's do this.
Many such cases of contractors telling you when they're going to be there and then them absolutely not being there. In my experience, I've as not a particularly handy man who owns a home. I've plenty of experience with these contracting types.
I was just having a conversation with somebody like 30 minutes ago. I think it doesn't really matter as much what you can do. It's like whether or not you have liability insurance to cover it if it goes wrong, like what the expected risk outcome is if something really goes bad. This is just replacing the exhaust fan in the bathroom, so maybe it's not that big a risk, but I don't want to mess with like electrical shit in my ceiling. So.
You know what? I was just as you were saying that, I was like, that shows how I think, because in my head, I'm like, I could probably do that. Yeah. So it's oftentimes a lesson in humility. All right, we are drafting out of the 1.3. My top question that I have for you is, do you expect there to be any significant changes in sidekick recommendations or in the sim based off of the snake eating its own tail impact of the sims themselves making the quarterbacks more expensive?
Some, yes. We do. So I think I mentioned this somewhere. We play closer to what like you would call like a Nash strategy with the sim than we do like an exploitative strategy, simply because we don't know how many other people are going to be using the sidekick in your rooms with you. And so if we gave you recommendations only based on you being the only person in there, then they would not be great, because you could get sniped on something that's like really important to make your build work for later. But similarly, we do want to give you the edge that we think is in there, because we are not drafting a room full of robots most of the time. And so we do that. So the things that are pretty Nash will stay similar, but the things that are more exploitative will change as the market shifts or whatever's going on. So things like how early, I guess, the injured players, like where you get Mixon or where you get someone who's falling, is like something that we are there. And I think particularly since we introduced the picks available feature, we're a little bit more aggressive about showing you when we think somebody is an important or like the best pick for you, and then putting a little bit more weight on you to decide to push them than we would have before we put that feature in there.
Yeah, that is, I found that feature to be pretty interesting. I guess I'm just curious how something with so many zeros in the range of outcomes, something like Joe Mixon or Najee Harris or Chris Godwin or Brandon Ayuk, you don't have to give away too much of the secret sauce, but I'm just wondering from a programmatic perspective or from like a coding perspective or math perspective, how does someone with so many zeros in their range, like how does that work inside of, like from your perspective?
Yeah. So you're describing something called a zero padded distribution, which is like a well-known thing in all sorts of processes throughout the human universe and other universes, where it's follows some sort of distribution, except you also have a whole bunch of zeros that are there at the start because of something that happens. Like maybe in some situations, somebody just forgot to write down the data a bunch of times, or in this case, someone is injured and not playing football. And so the way that you model that is with that sort of a distribution, but it's we do it much more precisely with trying to figure out when and where those zeros might be, and the probability that happen in a given week, and all those sorts of things throughout the season. I think the reason why it's a little unintuitive is people like think about the same way they do in DFS, like an average outcome gets worse the more zeros you add. But if you only care about the top 10 percentile outcome or something, it gets a little bit worse because a lot of zeros shifts it over, but like you're still looking at a big chunk of really good outcomes, even when you add a bunch of zeros to the left. Now, obviously, you can add enough zeros or have a team that can't survive those zeros for as long as they exist if they're there. But that's why things end up, which is why we end up had a market on a lot of these zeros, even when we're being quite pessimistic. And hi, Colonel Mustard is the cat who cannot handle it if I'm speaking, but not to him, and he doesn't get to hang out. So he's going to come be a lap cat. Hey, bud, you want to come hang out here? Come on. All right.
That's
doesn't want that. What do you want, bud? Come on.
All right. I'm gonna take the top sidekick recommended player until I really hate it. So however long that takes, could be the top 10 picks. One of the big things that I've noticed this year versus using it last year, and maybe this is just an observation changing the thing itself, like I don't know, is how often it is actually mixing the presenting a mixed strategy versus, sometimes it is optimal to take Josh Jacobs every time at pick 30 when he's there. Sometimes it's not, like basically like groups of players that are very similar instead of taking Diggs every time. Sometimes you take Golden, sometimes you take Reed, sometimes you take Pearsall, whomever. Was that like a concerted effort on your guys' part?
Yeah, it's a intended and positive consequence of the way we did it. So there's two different reasons for that. One is, but you can come up here or you can leave. You can't try to bite.
You can't do
attention.
both.
Like you can't go up and down. They have an automatic cat feeder that goes off at 4:00. So he is a little bit pissed off that I'm having a good time. And he's not locked in. He can get out, but he's just thinking that it's time. What are you going to do, bud? You're just going to do. He also does a dance. Hey, you want to come do a dance where the camera can see you? You want to dance for the people? Can you see them on the floor? You can't quite see him here. Anyway, he does this when he wants attention, and he's doing it all the time now. So what was I saying? I know. It's so great. What was I saying? Right. So there's two things that cause that, and both are sort of intentional sort of relaxation of some things. One is the classic algorithm. It's still in there. You could use it. Intentionally closes off some parts of the game tree that that were like less well known if they could or could not land a plane, so to speak. And so like you probably wouldn't get double elite tight end builds. You would get very few 2 elite QBs and those sorts of things, because we're like, it could be profitable, but since we had to write all the rules by hand in the classic algo, we didn't want to have to think through all the possible outcomes that could lead to bad things happening if you made that choice, to make sure we weren't having that happen. So that you don't have to do with the Sims. And so those get opened up, and sometimes you see those. Then the other thing is when the classic algorithm works off of ranks, and those are things that happen in an order. And then we did some things to change the order of players and all this nice, really appropriate, good math to get you good plays based on historical data and structures. But we you still had to have an order of players that you started with, right? And so if two players were like you had no stacks, you had no whatever, then we added some randomness, right? That we talked a lot about last year. Hi, are you going to attack my face because I'm talking? Hey, little bud. Because we wanted to get diversity, and we built in a good thing to do that. It's just not as truly diverse or random as the Sims are when we use the subset of Sims that we give you to each individual draft, which is why we give you a set seed when you go through it. So that is another thing that gives you randomness. All right, he's chilling out. He's going to settle in, and then he's going to claw the fuck out of me when he jumps up, when his food noise goes off in 36 minutes.
Hopefully when the contractors are there.
But
there we go. I did take Jalen Hurts there, even though I disagreed with the Sim. I would have for sure overridden it if George Pickens was still there.
Because you wanted to push, or you just don't like him stacked with AJ Brown?
Because
that much of a fall on AJ Brown, that's a pretty nutted start.
It is nutted. I think that I very likely, like 70% of the time, I'm able to get Hurts pushed around there, and Pickens' value over replacement is much stronger than like the 7 guys who come right after. Now, this is actually a question I've been wanting to ask you for a while. When I put my own ranks in to the Sims, Because I know like how tough that is for like Dan to do on like run the sim stuff, like to let a new sim run every time a new set of projections is uploading. How is that working like when I put my ranks into the Sidekick?
Fancy math. So we can't
Fancy
run. So we truly can't run a new set of sims for every person to do it and sell a $500 a year tool. Right. So we are constrained both in the amount of time that we want to get you rankings and the amount of data we can store and all those things. And so there's some fancy math that it is one of the things I would love to fix most about our sims before we get into playoff best ball. And then for next year is trying to figure out how to get custom rankings to feel better, particularly at the end of drafts. It's really hard for the way we're doing some math to do what you want it to do when you give us different rankings at the end. And so that is like top of my list of things that to try to figure out how we can do it at a cost that doesn't require us to increase the cost of the Sidekick and do it fast.
Which is that, I mean, that's the thing that's tough, right? The combination of, letting people put some sort of their own adjustment into it or some way, just whatever it might to make it more variable, which is tough. The Sidekick is having a great show. It's made one recommendation that I've slightly disagreed with, but nothing yet. Now we are yet to the part of the game tree where, because this is the toughest thing about anything sim based is that, or I don't know, you've probably solved this, but like I know this from doing golf stuff with Dan. The way that a sim treats the difference between 71.1 and 71.09 is not in practice in your actual lineups is far different than the actual difference in those things. Like we mess around with the golf sim and we change a guy's ownership projection from 1% to 4%. And he goes from being, the most plus EV guy in the pool to like in 0 of the top 500 lineups. So like something that I mean, a big reason why I do divorce from what the computer wants me to do in the later rounds is just like, it is that problem exacerbated. The difference between Cam Ward and Geno Smith or Jatavian Sanders and Juwan Johnson in practice is basically nothing. It's almost kind of unknowable to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, like the ownership example is a good, like that is purely solvable, right? It's you need to be Bayesian in your estimate of everything, right? So ownership is not a number; it is a distribution of fields of which ownership is a summary statistic of, and so your fields should all be different. Some of which have 1% at some frequency, some of which have 4% at some frequency, based on what you think people are going to do.
Right.
So
yeah, is the sim factoring in ownership in terms of like total number of draft boards that a player, like, is there estimated ownership that you guys are using? Like Darius Slayton is X% owned and that increases, or is that not a part of it?
Yeah, so we have that and it's in there. I think that people like that is, the ownership does not matter for your current contest. And there's so many, the things that really matter are the ways that ownership changes throughout the advancement rounds, right? Like it does, yes, there is an ownership and higher. It is good to have a lower owned player, all else being equal when you get to somewhere conditioned on their things. But like there are lots of other things that happen each week that change the ownership relative to what it would be.
Right. Yeah. Like I here we go. Sidekick again. Absolutely great selection. Exactly who I wanted to take. You'll love to see it. And this is even with my rankings in. This isn't even the legendary upside ranking on Jalen Warren. It's pretty interesting what will happen when one guy is drafting a terrible team or just I wouldn't even say terrible, just a very abnormal team. This guy's 2 quarterbacks through 8 rounds. He has 1 wide receiver through 8 rounds, which as a famous man once said, most of the expected value you get in gambling activities is from other people playing suboptimally. So I'm happy to have these sorts of drafters in my room, but it does always create an interesting texture. Now my own ranking is in this. Here we go. I am going to disagree. I am going to take J.K. Dobbins there because my own ranking is actually not updated. I need to move Cam Scatterboot down because he's got a hamstring injury. This is actually a good question. Has working on this tool and drafting these teams, has this made you the most locked into football that you've ever been, like the most interested in actually how
interested is not the word I would use.
Interested,
definitely not. I have absorbed the most passive amount of information that is uselessly bouncing around in my brain. That'll be used to help my wife draft her work season-long league in which there's no money, but just pride up top. And then I will maybe be able to root for specific players in a few weeks early on.
Because it is just so funny, like how much in this specific fantasy football activity you do have to just be locked into the most minutia. Isaac Urendo has a shoulder injury, Jordan James has a ankle, whatever, like that. Not even a real hardcore redraft fantasy player would ever need or want to know. But yes, using Sims on your coworkers wife's home league is pretty funny.
If it was a best ball tournament on either of the major platforms, we probably would, just for the lulz, but it's going to be some ESPN league, I'm sure.
We need to adapt the tool so that it can work for your home league against your buddies on CBS. Talk about a total addressable market, Shaidy. That is the market to get in. Just beat your idiot buddies with our tool, our redraft.
Yeah, we'd have to put in a bunch of how much does your market or your specific league pay attention to things how because a lot of that is who are you going to be able to get off waiver wires later in the season when the teams that are in the last two places have stopped paying any attention, and let that be it. You're gonna just try and bite me, huh? We're done.
That's very real. I know my home league buddies, they love the Football Guys Rate My Team tool, which is literally just, it almost is just a CLV, or it's a rankings versus ADP on each team. Like it's got to be so simple in their back end to do. It's how much ADP value did you get on your team? And it does do with good in-season management, 80%, with bad in-season management, whatever, which is obviously a huge part of it. Wow, guys, stop me if you've heard this before. The sidekick does want me to take Drake May, so I will be doing so. I will select Drake May at pick 118, which is actually totally fine. Yeah, Football Guys Rate My Team. Still, I did it. My home league draft was with my buddies 2 days ago. We pulled up the Football Guys Rate My Team. I've long said $1 million idea is something where you can just plug your best ball team in, and it just gives you an emoji-based grade. $1 million tool. Yeah. $20 a month, grade my team.
The post-contest sims or post-lock sims do that for a lot of the DFS sites these days. Yes. And it's basically just a which projection set did you use detector. It's great. Yep. Great if you use it. If not, it's limited and it's directionally accurate a lot of the time, but the actual precision is kind of silly. Oh, other cat's waking up. He knows it's almost food time too.
All right, we're taking Njoku. We're not going to take Kyle Williams because I'm getting some directionally bad vibes about Kyle Williams at training camp. Sounds like he's really struggling with drops. So I think our inputs might be wrong. Got to be monitoring the inputs, and I think our collective Kyle Williams inputs might be wrong. And nothing is more vague than training camp blurb, what the beat writer from The Athletic has been saying. The Kyle Williams stuff for the last week has not been great. It sounds like he is locked into being the wide receiver 4. Not to say he would be the wide receiver 4 for the entire season. You said post contest sims. I would be really curious, and this might just be totally a mental puzzle that doesn't have any real world application, but a post contest lock sim of Best Ball Mania, ordering the expected value of, what is it, 682,000 teams or whatever, or a post contest lock sim after week 15, week 16. I believe there was like a very basic version of that out on Ball Mania database last year that was like ordering the expected value of a team on a real simple sim. But that would be a fun exercise.
Unless you charge for it, it's a lot of work to do that well.
Yes.
for no money.
For
just
no money.
of how many inputs you need to adjust for injuries to like actually collapse everything down as the distributions get less and less uncertain for whatever's possible to happen.
Yes. Yeah. And it's well, do you think that is something you could learn from about like how to draft? Like that's the thing, is I don't even think it is instructive, right? Probably
it's a pure sweat tool, right?
Yeah.
We actually the player availability thing, we originally had it switch as soon as it would be when you were on the clock, it would be the probability of the pick players available, but then it would not change your pick, and it would like show you the probability as it went along, how likely they were to still be available for you when your pick came up. And that was a fun sweat tool, but then when we did testing, it was too hard for people to remember what it was, and they would get a little bit frustrated when like the meeting switched immediately when you came on the clock.
Right.
But I think there's people love DFS sweat tools and other sweat things. And so if somebody wants to put the money in and do it, I think there's a market for it. I think the fidelity that we would want to have in those sims would be quite high given the number of people that trust us for everything else. And I think that is just a lot of work for rest of season sims for no market, really. Speaking
of DFS crushers in these pools, by the way, the person drafting directly to my left is AE Jones, which I can't be 100% certain is old in like DFS, like absolute like legend AE Jones, but I almost certainly is, which is, there you go, folks. You can't, if you're offering $15 million prize pools, that you build it, they will come. Shaidy, do you want to answer a question about DFS, or sure. Is that behind
super chat or non-super chat? I mean, well, I'll just say no if it's behind the paywall, so don't put too big a super chat.
Don't ask him where the print money button is, or he is not going to tell you where it is.
I mean, it's right here. It's on this computer. It's on that computer. It's at that one.
Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Did he really go in the 13th? He did. Mm-hmm. Wow. Ja'Cory Krosky.
148.
And frankly, I can't even, my opinion would be is I don't think it's that bad. Like, if I'm looking at his range of outcomes, they can't be much worse than Rashad White's. They certainly can't be much worse than Trey Benson. Here we go. 2 DFS questions. Are you using Saber Sim, or and then do you do your own projections?
So I have never edited a Saber Sim projection in my life. That is the only thing I use as an input. That's not true. If there's a weather game, I will like X them out or make a weather adjustment based on that.
Sure.
But I do not touch projections. And so that's it. I just take their CSV and run my shit. It's why you'll see, like the post lock, you'll see that I'm one of the highest there.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna disagree, and I'm gonna take a running back. We're further behind a running back there. Do you always use the base Saber projection? Never, like even for NBA, you don't upload like ETR. That's really interesting.
Yeah. I have subscriptions to all of them in case SaberSim breaks and is down, and I have 40K on a night that I need to run a late swap on because I need a solution. But the projections I use are just straight out of SaberSim.
All right, what are your thoughts on this? On, we were talking about range of outcomes, but like these just snapping guys off 30 spots, 40 spots ahead of ADP, after pick 150 or whatever. Like, what is just without even the specific of the player, just your thought on that?
So I think there's 2 different answers to that. One is like, should a sidekick tool show them at the top there, which I think if they are the best pick, you probably want them to show it to you, and then you give the person the option of whether or not to push it or not. And then it comes down to probably a game of chicken, right? And you really have to think, like 30 is not actually that many meaningful spots of ADP once you're this late. If it's the player that gives you the most points, yes, maybe you can get them later, but if you can't, then you've sort of missed out on something at some percentage that is bad. The other thing that you have to be careful of doing that all the time is what exposure you would get if you took them every time 30 spots ahead of ADP.
Right.
And this late, 100% exposure to somebody is unlikely to kill your best ball season. It's not going to be great for it. And so the later you get, the less risky it is to actually have 100% of a player. But I still wouldn't click them 30 spots ahead of ADP all of the time.
Yeah, and I wonder how good their projection would have to be. So, like, I don't know. Let's say JCM, and let's say today at practice, Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson both get necrotizing fasciitis, and they're placed on season-ending IR. And coach says, we love Ja'Cory. He's going to be our starter. He's the man. Like, we're gonna give him the rock till he pukes or whatever. I mean, I would probably be comfortable taking him 100% of the time at this cost. Now, obviously, what happens is he then rises to the, water finds its level. He'll get to the spot to where he's ranked. But I would be comfortable hopping into, 10 drafts at a time and smashing him. But I do always wonder where like the Nash equilibrium is, where, when the guy rises to his 8.3% ratio or whatever.
Yeah, I think your original question is it there are players on NBA slates that you should have like 95% of because of their price to salary thing. And then if you pretended that the field didn't have any of them, then like you probably still want almost all of them, right? And since you're still getting 100% owned players just at a different cost, you're not doing the same thing. And so you're getting a lot more of them than you would in a sport where you're paying not having that happen, and you're just getting them at a different cost, and then you're just sort of fighting against yourself, right? You don't want to take them before you have to, but you should still take them when you can.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, obviously, that's the interesting thing about a turn-based game versus a salary cap-based game is you're not just weighing out, should I have 50% of them? But what if my opponents also know? By the way, it's just very funny that you popped on for this draft. This is like one of the craziest draft rooms. I mean, these dudes are going. Some of these teams are going out. Even the guy to my left is kind of losing his mind, which is just again. I mean, obviously, we're going to be getting some more of that stuff as we get a little bit closer to the season. Hopkins, Slayton. We'll do Slayton here. It was on the queue. I didn't have to scroll that far down. Yes, there are some free thinkers in this draft. We welcome the free thinkers, but it does make it so let's say you got popped into this room where you just have two teams that are almost kind of drafting divorced of ADP, and you obviously have fewer player takes and opinions on things like that. How does that interface with like your draft experience?
So for a best ball or BBM draft, I would pay almost no attention. But if there's a 5-5-5, I am like thinking, okay, well, if this team is dead to advance, what does that mean? Or if it's way too focused on advance rate and I'm less likely to advance this, or if they've scooped up a bunch of quarterbacks and the Sims know that they're gone, but they don't know that everyone else in the room knows that they're gone. And so they're not going to have the same sort of urgency for a quarterback that your room will have. And so that's when I would start thinking about, okay, I probably have to take quarterback a little bit ahead of where the sidekick wants it because everyone else is going to be taking quarterbacks sooner. That pick availability model is going to be less accurate. And the value to the team is actually a little bit higher because the cost of them being missing is a little bit more likely for all the quarterbacks for the rest of the draft.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like when you when you scale up in stakes, you have to think a little bit more about the draft. How do you think about just projecting fantasy football in general? Because like obviously you get to see like what Karain and all the guys are doing at Leg Up, like in Zach into the ranking stuff. But like as a season long exercise, because the inputs. Right, they want me to take Jarquez Hunter. I will. The inputs are super sensitive, and they're also done in kind of a way that is like, well, a person does have to make a decision. So like, for example, someone at Leg Up has to make a decision. Who is the running back 2 on the Rams? Is it Jarquez Hunter? Is it Blake Farmer? Or
If
is
you're
that not
Bayesian,
how
you
it works?
don't. If you're Bayesian, you can ask a lot of different people, a lot of different things, and find the right way to. I mean, it's a well-established field about how to like take a wisdom of a crowd of experts and turn it into prescriptive stuff. And so I don't want to get too detailed into how we do it, because I think that is one of the hardest things to do well and get correct. But there is, I mean, obviously Pat has the final say, and if something is okay to release on his site with his name and reputation on the line. But there's not a single person whose value, who's making a single choice that is required to make something correct or incorrect. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I mean, just the concept of, because as a simpleton who doesn't do math and doesn't think about like, I can think about things in a range of outcomes, but it's hard for me to imagine how a computer thinks about, like, you know, because I'm not a programmer, I'm not a coder, I was an English major at a state school. So it's just, it's very hard for me to think like, okay, well, how does something like who the Rams running back 2 get looped through in this, you know, statistically rigorous process, which is to say, I mean, probably the easiest thing to do is just like, shut up and assume that it's being run properly, which to the most part I do. I mean, I am kind of famous for not listening to the computer with varying degrees of results. But I say this to Dan all the time when we do the NFL BR stuff, which is like, you know, if you had access to one of the things being perfect or the other, the projection or the ownership or whatever, it would always be the projection, right? And that's more of a salary cap DFS thing. But between the two, the knowledge of the inputs can still get you quite far.
Yeah, it's just also in statistics we'd call a difference between frequentist and Bayesian statistics, right? So a frequentist, you think there is a correct mean value to project a player for on a week of daily fantasy. There's a right value, and the site that's not Bayesian that's not true. There's a distribution of the means that is correct for someone who's logically approaching the process to have predicted for that player to have for the distribution, and that's the thing that has a distribution. And then there's also a distribution that's associated with the mean of outcomes that could happen. But there's not a right mean answer. There's a right distribution of means, and you're trying to make sure that you have that distribution of means correctly sampled.
Interesting. Yeah.
No? Your first level Bayesian, you got to be second level Bayesian.
You got to be like, no, you got to be like, I do. Well, because as someone who's talked about sports professionally or semi-professionally for their entire adult life, I've of course learned the phrase being Bayesian, because it's a great excuse when you're wrong about something. Like, oh, I'm being Bayesian about the Chiefs backfield because
right.
I was.
This is I'm going to go find the contractors.
Yeah. All right. Shady's going to go find the contractors. I'm drafting out of the 12 hole here. I'm going to select Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then I'm also going to select Ashton Genty, which is a real chalky start, but I'm happy to do it. Could you come up with 2 Slappocalypse picks who are actually just good picks and 2 that are terrible? It's a very interesting question. All right, I'll come up a slappy pick that I think has the potential to be brutal is Trey McBride at the 2-3 turn if he doesn't score any touchdowns. Another slappy pick that could be awful could be Jameson Williams at the 4-5 turn if he just does not get any increase in volume. 2 Slappocalypse picks that I think are really good are Byshell Tootin and I'll go with Anthony Richardson today. Anthony Richardson, I'm feeling good. I've not done too many eliminators. I think I've done about 15 eliminators, maybe 20 eliminators. I like eliminators just fine conceptually. But at the end of the day, well, let me tell you guys a little bit about what motivates me, which is that I do not want to get to week 17 and not have a team in the finals in anything, right? And so every additional team that I draft in a contest that has week 17 finals is just another chance for me to punch the ticket and another chance for me to have, a real meaningful finals outcome, which is not to say that having a team in the eliminator finals would be awesome, or having a team in whatever, a sweat in the sprint or the marathon or whatever. But yes, the mid-season sweat for the elim is very cool too. I don't know. Would you guys say that Samson is slappy? I don't think it probably is. I think Samson is I would not consider Samson super slappy. I think he's medium slap. Why do I refuse to recognize any potential downside for Genty? That's just not politically where I stand, Pepper Tony. How many teams am I targeting to do in total? Well, I'll do. See, I had 256 pre-draft. I've got 638 completed teams right now. I'm in about 200 slow drafts. I will max the Millie Maker on DraftKings, so that's 150. I will max the main event on Drafters, which is 150 entries. So I will probably get to about, what is that? Is that maybe going to be 1,500 teams in the end? Why do I still draft QJ as the number one KLS slappy? Because my hero, I'm going to take Mike Evans here. And I'm also going to take Kyron here. My man, Mason Dodd, Fantasy Flock, is QJ is his most drafted player, and I honestly bought his logic. I think that his logic for Quentin Johnston was correct and accurate, which is that he just is a guy who is going to run a bunch of routes and is going to be out there a ton on a great offense with a great quarterback. Now, does KLS sort of impact that? I mean, he does for a little bit. Bayesian probability does say 5th round rookies are very often zeros. It does. And Bayesian probability is correct. You might say that. I don't know if Mason could sell me on Nick Chubb. I'm concerned about the age of one Mr. Nicholas Chubb's knees. It's not great. Anytime your head coach says, literally just says you're old. That was a crazy quote for D'Amico Ryans to tell Nick Chubb and tell the media Nick Chubb is old. That was wild. So I'm concerned about that. Honestly, I don't even know if QJ has stone hands. It feels it's just like a technique thing. His technique is not great. Yeah, that was the craziest backhanded compliment in NFL history. Guy's age. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being not drafting him at all, how worried are you about Matt Stafford's back? I am quite worried about. I would say a 6, because the whole time the Rams beat writers were saying if Stafford misses the joint practices on August 5th, that would be a sign that this is real concern from the team about Matt Stafford, because the Rams view the joint practices as one of the most important parts of their preseason, as like the most important part, because they don't play the starters at all in the preseason, and Stafford is not suiting up for those. So it's not great. Yeah, 9:17 on the doomsday clock. I need you to run through that eliminator logic for me again. A final in most of these side contests. Well, Mr. Mile High Jabroni, what you need to know about me is I really mean this. It is not about the money for me, bro. I mean, obviously the money is nice, but what I need is a title. I need a championship. I need to be like, I won the Husky. I won $75,000 in the Husky. Hunter all day. And let's do Trevion, actually. I gotta eat a little bit of protein bar.
What's up, buddy?
Did you get your contractor sorted out?
Got it sorted out. Did you see me sprinting around like a fucking idiot in the background?
No.
Somebody locked himself out the front door, so we had to go find the spare keys and let himself in the back door because the door automatically locks. So here we are.
Many such cases. This is not my protein bar of choice. This is how much of a simpleton I am. I got influenced. I'm so susceptible to this. Bryson DeChambeau. This is Bryson DeChambeau's sponsor, One Protein Bars, and I've been watching a bunch of his videos, so I got them, and they actually are delicious. All right, TLDR in the Sims range of outcomes is that they just rely on Pat and his ranking teams. That is the literal reverse of the TLDR. If I read that correctly, that's like one of the inputs, but the inputs are then ran through like a more rigorous statistical process, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're still going to be a bit leg up pilled, right? Like players like Roma Dunze who just don't really like that much, and so they're not going to move up that much if lots of people agree with things. But there is, yeah.
I mean, there's just how much of like bucketing are you doing with players where like there are historical archetypes? Like how much of like Stephon Diggs is age 31, this is what other players like, is there any of that stuff going on?
I'm the wrong person to ask. I take the things that have been turned into football takes have been turned into numbers and do those numbers correctly. I don't know. The answer is yes. I'm sure that they're like, okay, these are similar players historically. This is their range of outcomes and ways that they could do. This is how likely they are to increase their share by this time in the season. All those sorts of things that you need to do. But they've done those sorts of things because I don't want to double count them already, taking into account Vegas lines and ADP and all those things. Right. Their job is not to give raw takes. There's to give their best takes, and they use those as inputs rather than me assuming that they are not doing that. Yeah. I find it so fascinating. I would be so interested to know what like a computer programmer who is also like the largest football nerd on earth. I would find it really fascinating to see how they would approach the problem. Like what would they do to arrive at the like what would their projection process be like? What would their ranking process be like? What sort of would it be like a rankings? Like I would just be very curious because obviously the statistical, the mathematical community, the people who are so great at DFS, yourself, Utica, Dan, like these are people who I'd call you to the math community. Be fair to the guy. No, I guess he really is more of a ball knower. I guess let's say more Dan and yourself, which is like math and statistics and programming first before sports. I would be very curious what the process
how different it would be, what sort of same outcomes would you come to, what differences in the process would it be, would be someone who was football first and then did all the learning about, you know, computer programming and math and all that stuff, or if they could even get there. Like, that would be a very interesting case study.
So Wu is the closest person I can think of to that. Not that he's football first. He just is a giant football fan, but also a professor in optimization and stuff at a university. So he is quite a capable programmer.
Can Shaidy comment a little further regarding what he said about custom ranks and the end of drafts? Is there a certain round where I'd want to consider just picking what I want and not using the sidekick? That wouldn't have been my takeaway, but just like the degrees of the error bars get larger.
Hard. Yeah, it's just hard for us to make up a lot of ground without making really drastic assumptions about the way you want us to make that. Like, if someone's way up in your rankings because you think they have higher contingents, like higher contingency probability is very different than they have a higher value when they are contingently valuable. And so the further you get down in the ranks, the more things we would have to assume about what you're trying to tell us that then make things different. And so we do it, but then should be totally okay. I mean, you should always be okay at being the sidekick, right? Like, it is one of the things that maybe I don't think we've talked about clearly enough is like the actual amount of EV you got to have any individual pick itself is relatively small, right? Like, pretend that you had, you know, an EV of 50%, which is pretty high. You're making 18 picks and it's spread out to some degree between all of them. Obviously, earlier picks matter more than later picks just because of draft capital and things like that. But like, even if assume it's not even, that's like what, 2.5% of your entry fee per pick that you are getting or not getting, depending on, and it's a scale, right? Even all picks will have some range of that value that they're giving you. And so like the individual pick itself is not as important. It is if you do it a lot, right? Because that affects your portfolio, which is what, you know, you want to do. But then the actual EV of the individual team you're building, it's always okay to think, I like this player better. Take it.
All right. I'm not gonna argue with the sidekick here. I'm gonna take Jared Goff at 108. I wouldn't have been able to push him back around, and it's gonna have the same input error because I need to fix my rankings. So I'm gonna take Rashid Shaheed, despite it wanting me to take a quarterback there. That it's a good motivation to be on top of my rankings, because then when something like that happens, then I have to spend the entire day popping over him because I know that the input is wrong. Do player takes or roster construction affect the Sims to a greater degree? I mean, I assume it's roster construction by like a million miles.
Would depend on how extreme you are in your player take, right?
Yeah.
Like if you threw a random player and that, like, it could matter way more than the current roster construction. But in general, players are pretty similar. And you can sort of tell in the sidekick, right? Like, if it's giving you a lot of different players of different positions, then it's probably more about player takes. That if it's like giving you a lot, mostly all wide receivers, but one running back who's fallen a lot, it's probably more about player takes than the actual construction, or it's probably about roster construction than your player takes.
Yeah, that I do like when I am up to a pick and it shows me like 6 consecutive tight ends or 4 consecutive quarterbacks. I'm like, okay, this is probably a bad time to be IKBing. I you know, everyone can use these tools in their own way or have their own opinions about the tools in their own way. The number one use I have for it is it lets me rip through a bunch of slow drafts very quickly. Like, I made about 57 picks before this stream started very quickly, and I can just be sure that I'm not missing an obvious stack or missing an obvious faller or whatever. And then also for just like draft capital allocations in a given room for positions. I'm like, okay, I'm on the right bucket with my running backs. I'm on the right bucket with these wide receivers. Like, and if I'm IKBing it, I should have like a fairly good reason to be doing so. Because it's kind of hard to keep yourself on track. Like, I do notice when I do a fast draft without it on my computer, funnily enough, like the way my brain works is I'm so used to doing it on my phone, the fast drafts, that I feel totally comfortable. I'm like, I'm locked in. I know how this works. But then when I'm sitting at my computer and I don't have the Sidekick on, I feel sort of lost because I'm so used to looking over at the corner, seeing the little green box and knowing like, okay, it wants me to do this. Like it feels like an appendage is missing when I do it on my computer. If someone sees you with one of these crazy roster constructions, this guy's saying he's in some slows with you. He sees you have a 1-5-3-0. Is that likely a result of poor drafters in your room just like leaving falling values? I would assume that would be the case because I'll have some weird constructions like that if people are drafting bad in my rooms.
Yeah, so if it's a slow draft, so there's 3 reasons why I end up with weird teams. One is a Sidekick recommended it. The second is something came up and I walked away and I auto drafted a bunch of picks and I had to come back and fix it later. That happens a lot more than one might expect. Given like I'm unlike I drafted 4-5 rounds of 5-5-5 this morning because I was getting the ping from the Sidekick and I thought it was something we were debugging and not being on the clock for 4 rounds. But then the other one would be we have a dev version of this where we're testing, okay, how does it handle like really weird situations? Like, is it I guess we sort of talked about this, but everything in the classic algorithm is written down to some degree or another. Like if in this situation, do this. With Sims, you don't know what it's going to do in a situation until you put it in that situation. So if it's a pretty cheap draft, particularly if it's like a puppy slow or a puppy fast, I might be clicking things to see like what if a player did this or if this happened, what happens to things happening, just so that we know that we're releasing something that can recover if you say are on 15 slow drafts this morning and Underdog logs you out of the active page and you can't get on for 2 minutes. So now this morning, I had to just hope that it recovered me from whatever the fuck happened over those 2 minutes of not being able to click players. And so like we need to make sure it gets as much of your money back in those situations as it can. So putting it in those situations on purpose is a good way to do it.
That's a very good point, which does happen, which is that real life, there are situations that come up that you're not going to imagine in a testing phase, which is, I can't make picks. I have to recover. Like, well, this is one that's happened to me. I'm drafting. I'm at the gym. I'm in the sauna, whatever. And I do the star. So I'm like, okay, I just took Justin Jefferson. I've got JJ McCarthy. I've actually always wondered the answer to this question. You might be the man to be able to answer it for me. I have Justin Jefferson. I get auto-drafted JJ McCarthy in the 4th round because I wasn't paying attention or because of whatever. What will the computer tell me to do to salvage as much money on that team? My assumption has always been you want to draft as many players from that team as possible to make it as if JJ McCarthy should have been a 4th round pick. So you want TJ Hawkinson, you want Jordan Addison, you want Ty Felton, you want Jalen Naylor or whatever. But because this is,
I suspect that's what it would do, right? So it's a contest sim, right? So you now need to advance, right? That is the thing that you've fucked up. Like there's definitely weeks where JJ McCarthy is a whatever, should have gone in the 4th round based on his individual score that week. But my guess is you're in a situation where the Sims are like, okay, there are very few outcomes where this team advances, and those are the only ones that matter. So how do we find those outcomes where it advances and can still get some money back and then figure it out from there? But again, I don't know because I don't believe I have actually punted off when I fuck things up, it's because I auto draft things. I don't think we've simulated what happens when Davis fucks up the star method.
I think we should. I think next test run, I need us to do Justin Jefferson 1st round, JJ McCarthy 4th round, and then see what it tells us to do.
It's your entry fee. Do whatever you want.
Tell me, you guys tell me when. You guys.
If you've done a draft, that's the easiest way, right? Like if you just follow his recommendations, it's like you're doing the test for us. So if you're like, this is how it landed the plane when I did this, I'm gonna be like, oh, that's interesting, and we're glad to see that it seems to have done.
All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it in the Pomeranian. You guys catch me in the Pomeranian. I'm taking.
He's just trying to do some testing for us. We appreciate it.
Well, I truly have, because I've been in that situation often enough in my life. To have to think about it. I'm gonna IKB the
yeah. So there is this like
here.
you may also end up in this thing that you'll see, and Nerdy's talked about it, and I've talked about it some in daily fantasy, where like if you look at some of my MLB lineups or NBA or NFL, they look like absolute shit, right? If you were looking back, there's like, why the fuck would anyone have ever played this? And it's because I'm late swapping and I'm trying to get any EV back that I can on a lineup that is probably dead or worse. There is zero probability of this ever even cashing. So it does not matter at all to my models or sims what player is there. And so it's just spewing out a random player, right? And so you could end up in that situation if it was a bad enough punt that you're like, oh, like this team literally cannot advance. I don't think that exists in best ball to the same degree. I think you still have futures if it's only one pick you messed up where the team can advance. So there's still things for the sim to go and find that it's good to optimize for or increase the rate of. But you could, if you like punted 4 picks, have a team that has no chance of advancing in any like a reasonable set of outcomes that we do. And it's just like, nah, here's a random player. It doesn't matter. You click this and move on to your next life. We don't tell you that it has no, I'm not sure how we would detect that for sure. But that could also be you could fall into that hole pretty quickly, I think.
I would imagine that almost is what it would do, because whatever the expected value formula would be, the expected value would have to be really low, because you're overdrafting a guy by 100 picks at the like least important fantasy football position.
Yeah, low is still fine, right? You can still make low less low. It is 0 that is the problem. If there is no outcome where it advances, you just can't. It can't find a thing to improve that gives you any money, right? And so if everything's a 0, then there's no path for it to go down to make a better team, because everything has the same thing. Everything goes to 0 over a long enough timeline in the JJ McCarthy in the 4th round. All right, so this team, I just realized I haven't said any of the picks. Jared Goff, JJ McCarthy, Cam Ward, Ashton Genty, Kyron Williams, Trevion Henderson, Tony Pollard, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike Evans, Travis Hunter, Michael Pittman Jr., Rashid Shaheed, Dallas Goedert, Brenton Strange. Do you normally watch football on Sundays? Do you watch Red Zone? No.
Do you think you will this year because you've got so much action in? No. Keep your Sunday. Honestly, good for you, man.
I will watch it I watch the games at live finals because we're all hanging out on couches and it's fun to sweat with friends about whatever's going on. And I like probably 3 or 4 weekends we'll go to our friend's house, and he's a big Giants fan, so we will watch the Giants game that's on. And then week 17, if there's a sweat, I will probably have week 70 is a disaster, right? There's like a solo Sunday and a solo Monday. It's been like the
biggest disaster of all time.
So I don't know how I'm going to sweat that, but I will probably, if I've got live finals teams that don't have all injured players, not live finals teams that are live without all injured players, I will go figure out a way to enjoy that with some people.
No, it's basically I'm really veering now because I have a different path in mind for this team. And so I'm gonna pursue that path. I'm on the path of slappiness right now. I wanted to go in a different direction.
We've been trying to work on how to do that feature where you can like star players in some way internally to us that you think you're targeting for your team later, and it solves to have those. It's just hard to figure out. Okay, well, when are you gonna? How sure are you that you're gonna have that player on your team? Right? Are you willing to take them 4 rounds ahead of ADP to make sure you have that player, or like what are you trying to tell us? Are you just saying you like this player and so we should do stuff like that? So that is hard to figure out. Like how do you communicate to a user and then also give the user what they want with that sort of thing?
So like one of my concerns, concern is not the right word. One of the reasons why I am more of a choose my own adventure drafter than a top sidekick recommendation is, one, I want to just have like some weird stuff at the end that is not just linear for my rankings. Like I don't want, or even just like one of Rashard Smith, Taj Brooks, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, Will Shipley every time. Like I want to have like a good, sometimes I want to take Blake Corum. Sometimes I want to take Ollie Gordon, whatever. That's one of the reasons. But the other is I do think there's a little bit of artistry God forbid, with like your final like 4 picks of the draft, like I want to introduce Cameron Ward and then take Io Manor sometimes. And it's like, I'm not going to, maybe some of the time, the tool will get me there. Some of the time it'll say, hey man, I think you kind of need some quarterback points here. You have Cam Ward ranked about here. You should take him. And then after you take him, it'll tell you to take Io Manor or whatever. But I do like to introduce that variance more than the sidekick tells me, which is
fine.
I was gonna say, I don't. That actually, I would feel probably doesn't change my EV all that much.
It's more of a risk question than it like. Yes. And if you're someone who's like intentionally doing things like that and keeping track of your rates, then you're probably fine. But if you're like, if you always want that player, then you're like, you've made a risk choice that like we are not recommending, and so that's why you would have to override it to get the frequency.
I only have 3 players on over 20% of my teams at this point, which is pretty low relative to the way most people approach it. Part of that is obviously as you draft more teams, you should have more combinations of players. Interesting. I guess it still wants me to take Null. I'm not going to. I am going to take the second player it recommends. I am going to take Chig, and then I'm going to see what it tells me to do. I'm curious if it brings Naylor or Felton up, even though I kind of have them buried in my rankings because I don't have any other Vikings player. I am going to take Jalen Naylor, who I have ranked really low. Yeah, see, like I have Jalen Naylor ranked at 230. You know, what is that? 50 spots lower, 70 spots lower than Jalen Null. But to me, the correlation on this team without having any other Viking was worth it enough to get there. But I'm wondering how you think about that.
Like, yeah, so there's a couple different things that I would do there. So one is like the reason correlation is, how do I want to talk about this? Correlation is good because it increases the chance that that player scores more points with another player, because that is the definition of correlation. But there's like how much of that variance at any given week is due to the team versus like the player, and things like that come into it. So like the thing that you know for sure maybe is that JJ McCarthy and Jalen Naylor are on the same team, and the closer we get to like the NFL trade deadline, the more and more true it is that that is always true, right? And so that is a safer thing to bet on as something that is going to be true than some other component of the formula for what makes a good team. And so like earlier in the season, it's, you know, the variance in Naylor's production and the variance in McCarthy's production are tied to other things at higher weights than just being on the same team with someone. Like, do they get injured before the season? Does another player show up and reduce the range of outcomes for Naylor, or whatever it might be, or like offensive line injuries, or whatever it is that might change Vegas totals. You can think about that. Might have a greater impact on the correlation throughout the season than like the fact that this is a patch relative to the pass catcher correlation from like an individual game. And the closer you get to a game actually happening, the more and more that uncertainty goes down, and the things that you understand from DFS come to be true, because now the only variance is them actually playing out that game and scoring some amount of points within their expected distributions of a game of NFL.
So my thought process is obviously going to be more reductive than that. And it's more about, I use this falling ADP McCarthy, and I can either use that inside the context of this 18-man roster as like, you know, quote unquote advance rate play, like just a guy who like to provide points in the regular season. But like the week 17 of it is that if JJ McCarthy produces a score that could help someone win in week 17, the odds are, you'd be better at handicapping that than I would. Incredibly high that one of his teammates is also on the winning roster, whether, you know, regardless of who that is. So I want to give myself the out for all 3 of those quarterbacks having a score that I'm happy to get in week 17. I mean, it may, and obviously there are many that again is a very reductive way to think of it. There are many ways that JJ McCarthy could generate 35 points and not bring his teammates with him, but that is why I took Jalen Naylor over Jalen Knoll.
Yeah, that's the one that the classic algo probably would have given you, right? Like if you were just looking at classic, it probably would have said, Sims didn't exist when I was building this. This is what I know to be the most logical thing and most likely safest path forward to things. And so let's give you the safe answer. And then the Sims are just designed to say, we don't know any of the rules that people have thought about. Let's just give you teams with frequency that is appropriate to that being a thing. I think we tend to like Jalen Knoll or whoever it was you didn't click. I think we're a lot higher on than market, and we are expecting to score just enough points in the regular season, even that like that pick over Naylor probably is always happening in the range of outcomes that we simulate.
He's a very good player and a much better player and a much better scoring distribution than Jalen Naylor. But sometimes you got to follow your heart. To me, I will always retain a little bit of a feel game element to doing these, because mostly I would say a lot of the things that I do that deviate strategy wise are because I don't know, you guys do the math here of how many teams you see on the screen, this many drafts in, and I want to have a lot of different bases and combos covered effectively. So that they missed out on the sale for the Sidekick. It is now full price for the remainder, but if someone wants it just for the month of August, they can do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the price is going to be coming up just so that it is still, we don't want people who have been around paying a yearly sub to feel like someone can jump in and easily rip off 300 drafts in the month of August. But I don't remember when Pat is raising that up to something. I think he may have sent out the email. But yeah, there's still a monthly sub. Yeah, so there's a monthly sub, which is higher than it is for most of the year. And then there's the yearly sub. I did want to talk, like one of the things we're most excited to see happen is like it'll feel different drafting with a Sidekick as we get more and more things, not because of the snake eating its own tail type of stuff, just because we now have more concrete information about players later in the draft. And so we expect the builds that feel good now in August as training camp news comes in will be materially different than we had the uncertainty before things. And that's, when people talk about barbell drafting or drafting throughout the season, this is also one of the benefits you get, is you get different structured teams as those things play out.
Yeah, beautiful. And if they sign up for the Sidekick, do they get to bother you in the Discord with questions about their teams and their sims?
I mean, they get to. I don't love that being something that we broadcast. But yeah, I think we try to answer us, we're very transparent.
How about this? How about you can provide feedback to the team about your experience using the Sidekick, and if the feedback is good, then maybe it'll get implemented.
Yeah, I mean, we get great suggestions all the time in our Sidekick feedback thing. And then, yeah, I think probably answer more questions than I should, both about best ball and DFS in just hanging out and shooting the shit with people.
There you go. All right, everyone. You guys can check out the Sidekick if you would like, and make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for daily fantasy football videos, and I'll be back.